Hello and welcome to Jennifer Knatters. I'm Jennifer and this is my video podcast where I natter on about my knitting, my life, my kids, all that fun stuff. I'm coming to you from Inverness in northern Scotland. I am a transplant here. I'm originally from Northern California and I live here with my husband, my 2 children, and our 2 cats. Hi, it's been a while. I think I did one between Christmas and New Year, and that was my last one, and it is now, today is the 17th of January, it is a Friday, the year is 2020, that's a whole new thing that I haven't figured out how to write yet. I had to fill in a bunch of paperwork because my youngest just started nursery and I kept having to write the date. Whew, that was a trip. But yeah, hi, how have you been? How have I been? If you've been watching, you know that I've had a really bad kind of cold season going through the winter. I was starting to feel better. I took my kids out just before, the weekend before school started. We went to one of the soft play places and they came home with a head cold. And then I got it, and my ear infection that was just starting to feel better is not feeling better anymore again. So I don't even know. I guess I'm just gonna have to go to the doctor again. Last time the doctor was like, probably viral, sucks to be you, can't do anything. Always fun. But I've been feeling a lot better other than the ear infection, which is starting to hurt again. To that. I've even done some knitting. I know, right? And look, it is 4 o'clock. It'll be 4 o'clock in just a few minutes. And the sun is still up. The sun will not set for another 20 minutes. So sun sets at 4:10 right now. Daylight, actual daylight. With Catherine, my youngest, my baby, who just turned 3, starting nursery, I will hopefully be able to record the podcast during the day when she's at nursery and I'll have some quiet time to myself. So this might become a regular thing again. Fingers crossed. I have some finished objects, just have to figure out where I put them. And the first one is the Peaks and Troughs hat, and this is by Jen Arnall-Culliford. And this is one of the Boost Your Knitting, I'm so out of practice, one of the Boost Your Knitting projects, and that's in their book. Now you can see where the end of round was. We'll just turn that around towards the back. Ta-da! And this is for the double knitting technique. So that is one side, and that's the other side. Fully reversible. And this is knit in the Arnall-Culliford's Something to Knit With Aran. And the colors are Pool Sky and Cornflower. Don't ask me which is which. If I had to guess, Cornflower, Pool Sky. Cornflower, Pool Sky? No idea. It is their 3 blue shades. One of them's a bit tealish. And this is a very warm hat. I wound up going down 0.5 millimeter from the suggested needle size and then doing the small one to get a hat that fits quite comfortably and would probably fit a slightly larger head than mine without any trouble. I wound up doing an extra row of these zigzags before doing the decreases because the way it was written, the hat comes kind of like halfway across your ears, and I felt if it's cold enough to want a super warm double knit hat, then I really wanted to be able to pull it right down over my ears, back of the neck, be properly warm, full forehead. We can even tuck it behind the glasses a little bit. So I made it just a little bit longer, and that gave me a lot of good depth. So Peaks and Troughs hat. This was a lot more enjoyable than my previous singular experience knitting a double knit project. I think I kind of got the hang of it. I figured out how to do it a little bit two-handed and even a bit how to do Norwegian purl for the inside ones, because otherwise when you're double knitting, you keep the yarn between. So every time you do one side, you're knitting, and then the other side, you're purling, and you have to keep the yarn between, or you'll see it wrapped over the stitches. So you keep having to take both yarns back and forth. But I figured out a few things, and it worked really well, and I've got my decreases at the top in double knitting. Ta-da, decreases. And it hasn't particularly been cold, so I haven't worn it outside yet, but I have this nice hat. Both my husband and my almost 7-year-old, she'll be 7 next Friday, decided it's too itchy, which I think is the alpaca content, because I know it's I'm going to say merino, but I don't actually know if it is merino. It's a wool alpaca blend, and some people are sensitive to alpaca. So I'm guessing that's what it is. They have enough wool in their lives that I don't think it would be the wool. My next finished project is the Taradale Hat by Emily K. Williams. If you have been watching for a while, you will know that this is my second time knitting it. And the first time I knit one that was so big that Christina, my almost 7-year-old, was here with me, and we both got our heads in. So, is that right? Yes, that's correct. I don't know why it looked weird in the camera. I haven't woven the ends in yet, so I have my tail. So it's actually got a wee hole in the top. So you knit with one color so many inches, and then you switch to the other color and knit the same number of inches, and then you twist it a certain degree of rotation, and then that's when you start doing the double knitting motif. So the hat is twisted. This is by Emily K. Williams. It is in the Milarrochy Head book by Kate Davies. It's also available as an individual pattern. But I know she has several hats with this kind of thing, and most of them are twisted a bit further, I believe. And you can actually, if you want, get your head right through that loop and wear it as a cowl, or you let it kind of close up a bit and you wear it as a hat. Doo-doo. And with this one, I went down, I had knit the medium size previously. I went down, I think a whole millimeter on the needle size and knit a smaller size. And as you can see, it is still a bit roomy, not a complaint. And it's a bit longer, so you kind of wear it slouchy. I don't know if I can turn my head enough, but no, I can't see the camera, so I'm hoping you can see the slouchiness. So yeah, this one, it's in the Milarrochy Tweed. It's Smur and Gloamin. Smur is the blue, Gloamin is the purple. Gloamin is kind of like a twilight word in Scots. I don't know what Smur is, but that is the color. Excuse me, I'm so sorry. Normally I try to stop the camera if I know I'm going to have a coughing fit. That one kind of just snuck up on me. But yeah. So one thing I did change is I did a row of knitting before I did the corrugated rib. The double-sided corrugated rib. I did a row where it would be stockinette before the reverse stockinette, so that instead of getting purl bumps at the top, it looks smooth. That's the only thing I changed in the pattern, other than the colors, because it's written in the blue and the navy is the suggested ones, but I like purple, so purple it is. I have worn this one out. It's largely been too hot, just because it hasn't been really cold here. We did get a tiny dusting of snow, but it didn't even stick. It barely even hit the ground. So that is those two I mentioned last time. And then I have another finished object, which I actually cast off just now, right before I recorded this. I tried to do it before I left for the day, but I only got halfway through the cast off on the ribbing. And this is a pair of socks. This is January, that's the word. This is January's Boost Your Knitting project, and these are toe-up socks with a gusset. So you can see there's that little triangle there, which gives you a little extra room for the heel. I modified several things for this. I did a smaller cast on for the toe, for a narrower toe, and then I did angled, I think you can see it in the back a little better, an angled toe. So I have a left foot and a right foot. And then from where I started my increases, I didn't do quite as many as the pattern suggested for my size. I did it up to the size down, so I had the same number of stitches as the pattern said for the next size down, and then just decreased until I had the number for the number of stitches to match the front, and knit it, and it fits really well. I have a picture of it on one foot when I knit to, you know, like there in the cuff, just a little bit up the cuff, and you can see that it fits the heel like pretty much exactly. I did have to rip back and redo it a little bit just to get the number of stitches to match up, because I knit the number of stitches I thought I needed, and then it didn't match any of the pattern ones, and I thought, well, I'll just do it to match the pattern. So that'll the stitch count for the pattern. So I have my two socks. I did the cuffs to be roughly the same size as the toes. They're just slightly, I didn't actually count how many repeats I did on the second one to match the length of the first one. It looks like they're maybe a row or two off, but that could just be because one has been tried on and the other, as I said, I just finished. These are in Schoppelwolle Admiral Stark 6-ply, which is a thicker sock yarn, so they're thicker, warmer socks. The pattern is by Wendy D. Johnson. When I first started knitting socks, I knit like her patterns were definitely my go-to. It was her and a woman who was going by Yarnissima. Had my kind of default vanilla sock patterns were based on their patterns. So yeah, she hasn't been publishing socks in a long time, but she's done one now. And it's got that gusset for a toe-up sock. So I'm really looking forward to wearing these. I did want to wear them today, but I didn't quite get it done. And I'm just going to pause the video because I'm going to need to cough. I'm sorry, hold on. Sorry about that. I just had a week off. I do have just a tickle of a cold, which other than being in my ear and the fact that I keep coughing until I'm sick is not, which is just a thing I do because I have asthma. It's not too bad. Having cold is kind of my life. This is the project bag I use. This is So Beautiful by Nicola, and it came with not the little red gem, which is what I was using. It's that one. It's just a little red thing that I was using as a stitch marker, but this little, hold still, mushroom stitch marker, and then it's the ladybugs, fully lined inside. It's got her wee tag, and it's just really cute. Ribbon drawstrings, a wee handle that seems, I mean, for my preference, it seems just a little far down the bag, and it's a little large. I have, I mean, you look at it and it won't look dainty, but my hands are actually not, the distance between my wrist and my hand is fairly small when it's curled up, and things tend to just slide right off. If my hand is at my side, things tend to, excuse me, now I've got hiccups, and I don't know if you can hear it, but it has just started raining. Things tend to slide off my wrist, so I just cinched it up a bit tighter so that it would be a bit more secure. I mean, it's still, it still would slide off, but it's just that tiny bit of a stick, which helps keep it on my hand. And it's a very thickly lined one, and I got this for really cheap. I want to say it was something like 10 pounds because it was on sale. It's just a little sock sack, but I picked it because it's got the red and the red. And who doesn't want their sock project to match their wee sock bag? So what's up next? Works in progress. Since I was working on it today, I will start with my pink Anemochory socks. If you've been watching for a while, you'll know that I knit the first one, and then I knit the second one probably to about there. Sorry, this pink is so bright. You really, I don't know if you can, it looks brighter on the camera than it does in real life, but it is a very bright pink. Anyway, I knit the second one to about there, and then I lost my knitting project, and I wound up finding the bag with the finished sock over by a field we walk across. There's a pavement, so this field kind of conjures the wrong thing. A grass expanse with a footpath through the middle. And then I found the yarn at the other end of the field, strewn up and down the pavement sidewalk for the Americans, wrapped around rubbish bins because it was bin day and all sorts. So it was really mucky. So that's this ball of yarn. And I finally, over Christmas, cast on the second one, and you can see like the yarn has a dirty streak, and I'm hoping that will wash out, but if it doesn't, it doesn't. Because I did rinse it a little, but I didn't like wash it properly. I dried it and skeined it up and tried to get all the little bits out was my main concern. So I have made it to the heel turn, and I was working on that today, but I'm just not quite sure. I need to check my notes, and hopefully I have good notes on this because it's been a long time, because this sat in the naughty pile for a good long while I had to come around to being willing to reknit it after the tragedy of losing basically a third of a sock. And I did weigh this, and the ball of yarn weighed exactly the same amount as the finished sock, but I don't know if this was still a little damp or if my gauge is going to turn out to be slightly different, because I did use larger needles for the cuff to make it a little stretchier, because my first ones, even by trying on the second sock to make it stretchier, was like the cuff, the cast on was the only tight bit. Everything else was stretching really well. So it's kind of a ribbed lace pattern. It's very cute, and the sock has just this beautiful, with the gussets worked into this foot shaping. It's a very striking sock in a very striking color. So I've started that, and after this I will check my notes to see how much longer I need to make this before I turn the heel, and then it should be smooth sailing from there. Touch wood. Oh god, I probably just jinxed myself. And this is in my winter sock sack, and this is the little gray girl. Ta-da. And it's a perfectly nice bag, which is, again, the strap is a little longer than I would prefer, but it's closer to the top, which I like. Basically, the conclusion I've come to is that I'd like to try making bags myself, not to sell, unless my life takes a very different turn, but not to sell, but just to get the dimensions kind of the way exactly I want them, because everyone's going to want their knitting bag ever so slightly different. I think everyone's making these bags. This one isn't as thickly lined as the So Beautiful one, which I'm not saying is good or bad. I'm just saying that's a characteristic of the two different bags. But in order to get the bag, you know, exactly the way you want, I've seen a lot of bags lately that seem to be a lot skinnier than I'd want. I'd want them more square, just things like that. Just to kind of, to get all the little bits exactly the way you want, I think I would have to make my own bag. So hopefully now that Catherine will be in nursery, I'm going to try to get some more sewing in. Touch wood. All the things I want to podcast. I want to do more sewing. I want to clean out the garage. There's a lot more than the time that Catherine will actually be in nursery. Although having done one full session, which is 3 hours of the nursery place, she was today, we had gymnastics, so she didn't have nursery. She has nursery. She signed up to do Tuesdays and Thursdays for right now. And she was like, well, when can I go to nursery again? And we walked by the nursery, because it's on the school grounds. We walked by the nursery when picking up Christina from school, and she's like, look, there's nursery, there's my friends, when can I go play? So we may send her 3 days a week. So that'd be fun, right? So that is the Anemochory socks by Hunter Hammersen, Violently Domestic. And that is in a pink sock yarn from Abstract Cat that I got at the Yarn Cake, which is a yarn shop in Glasgow a long time ago. So that's what I know about that. My next up project is the Plum Incunabula, which is by Karie Westermann, and this is a cropped cardigan, which I think has like 3/4 length sleeves. And this cat stitch marker is where I was the last time. Turn around, wee cat. There you go, cat. The cat stitch marker is where I was last time I showed it to you. I haven't shown it in a while. And it's got the faux cable on the back and on either side of what will be the button band. The button band will be picked up. And my little stitch markers are the decreases, and I'm now at the point where I'm doing so many rows plain and then do the increases. So that's from hips to waist, and then it'll be waist back out to bust. And I'm not doing any modifications. I'm not grading between the sizes. I'm just doing a straight, here's what the pattern says. So far. It's been a while since I've read through the schematic and everything, so I may need to revisit the idea of adding short rows for the bust. Let me see if I can drink some tea to prevent coughing. Nope, don't think that's going to work. Sorry, hold on. Sorry about that. Tickle just doesn't like me very much. So yeah, I will revisit my measurements and make sure I'm going along the way I want to be going. And ta-da! And I'm knitting this in the suggested yarn, which is the Blacker Classic DK, and this was in the plum color. The classic line has been discontinued, is my understanding. So I picked this up in the clearance sale. I think it was something like 36 pounds for enough yarn to knit me a cardigan, which is a good size cardigan. I mean, it is a cropped cardigan, so the cardigan is not the largest, but I was able to get it at a very reasonable price. And my next project that I've worked on a little bit is also by Karie Westermann. Excuse me. And this is the Fika shawl, which Fika is a coffee break in Danish, which is Karie Westermann is originally from Denmark, and she currently lives in Glasgow. And it's got this little kind of cat's paw flower lace pattern. And this is just kind of your classic triangle shawl. This one's going to be a really big one. So I'm knitting, and it's going to go, I didn't think of the bottom as being flat, but it might not be. Anyway, big, It's going to be a very large shawl. And then at the bottom it has a deep, can't think, moss or broken moss border at the bottom. And if you ever knit something in lace and think it looks like a crumpled up mess, yes, lace looks like a crumpled up mess until you wash it and pin it out, and then like magic it looks like something beautiful. And this one is in a Duckpool Lane bag, and this is, I think, one of their medium-sized bags. It's like a shawl or small garment one. As I was saying, this one's a bit little rectangular size for me and a bit deep. I think people are currently liking the deep ones, and it's got this kind of watercolor one. And it's beautifully made, very well constructed. The wrist strap isn't too big. It's got the little thing so it's removable, but the shape isn't quite what I would call perfect. So again, this is all pure personal preference. I have a lot of bags made by different people, and I have opinions on all of them as to why none of them are just quite right. And that includes, I've made a few bags and none of them are just quite right. So I think for me, I have bought fabric to make some project bags. So I'm just really looking at the bags I'm using to see what I like, what I would do slightly differently, what I would do completely differently. This one is more thickly lined. The interfacing on this is a little thicker than the Grey Girl bags, but not quite as thick as the So Beautiful Nicola bags. And the fabric is heavier. This is kind of a twill or a duck, whereas the other ones are both more like a quilting cotton. Look at those cute little tags. Everybody has such cute little tags on their bags. Oops, sorry about that. Excuse me. And the next up is my scrap blanket. I think I showed you this side. Doot, doot, doot. Doot, 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 doot. And this is currently Christina's favorite color. So what I've added is this row of the blue, this kind of goldy orange, mottled blue-gray, tonal pink, very tonal blue, pink and green springy one. This one is a purple, a bluish purple, but it's got stellina in it, so it's got that sparkle. And this kind of bright green, and this pink and purple and blue, variegated, the very tonal blue, and then this kind of rainbowy one. So these are all ones I've done since last we spoke. This squared it off to 9x9. It is a good size, kind of a twin size. My 7-year-old, my almost 7-year-old, has claimed this for herself. So I think I might just do one more wide and make it, this row is the start of 10x10, and then add a few more rows up to give it length. So that's probably what I'm going to do. So this one is kind of a twin size for US twin, UK single size for my little one. And then in an after Christmas yarn, this leads to my acquisitions, I bought these 3 mini sets, and these are all from Giddy Yarns. So there's a blues, a greens, and these purples. And these colors I think will be really nice for me, doing something a little less crazy and a little more deliberate. The scrap blanket that I'm doing, each square is about 5 grams. So each of these is about 20 grams, which means theoretically I would get 4 from each color. And then I've got 5, 10, 15. 15 times 4 is 60. So that's kind of where I am with how big a blanket I would get out of that. So that's very much like 8x8, because 8x8 obviously is 64. So I will need more yarn because I want it to be something I could use like in the summer on my, when it's warmer but it's not warm and you just want a lighter layer, or even just a slightly warmer one in the winter when you just need a tiny bit more. So I will need more yarn, but I think these colors go really well with my bedroom and maybe get some pinks. I just like these all together. Let's do the dark ones all towards the middle. There we go. Right now I kind of just have them on my dresser so I can admire how beautiful these colors are. So yeah, I will probably keep my eye on Giddy Yarns to see if there's maybe a pink set of these. I just kind of been looking, I was watching another podcast and they mentioned Giddy Yarns and I thought, oh, I'll go look because I really like minis. And then I saw these and I'm like, oh, those are all perfect. Well, just what would it be if I put it in a basket and added some shipping and, you know, like just to ballpark it. And then it turns out they were 20% off on as well. So I was like, okay, well, I can go ahead and get those. That's like for that much yarn, the price was very reasonable. So those are intended to be a blanket for me. And I mentioned last time that the advent calendar I got was very brown tones, green tones, earthy tones. So I'm thinking about using those, and then leftovers from this blanket in the bright tones, the yellows, the oranges, the greens, the reds, the warm tones to make a blanket for my husband. And then I can use the cool tones and maybe add them to this blanket. Or obviously Catherine, my 3-year-old, will need a blanket as well. So, and the nice thing about this is I can make a smaller square blanket for Catherine. And then as she gets bigger or as Christina gets bigger, I can add on. So that's fairly easy. But with this, because I do want it to look very intentional, I kind of want to sort out all the yarn I'm going to use ahead of time. Because with this one, I started off with minis from an advent calendar from several years ago, and that's this corner. And so they have a more similar look, you know, then we start getting into some stripes and some brights and some highly variegateds and a lot more colors. But this corner, it doesn't have any stellina. It has the occasional bright or dark, but there's a lot of kind of similar, I mean, like you can see the colors have a similar softness to them, to their level of variegation and tonalness. So, and the others are all much more scattered. So that's kind of where I am right now, is it doesn't have to be all the colors, but I'd like to kind of have a better sense of how it's all going to fit together when I start. And then I'll do the same thing I'm doing, which is I'll knit one square and then, you know, from each one, and then set it aside and then use them all again, and so on and so forth. So most of these, there are some that are 5 grams, like the ones I did start with in that first corner from that first advent calendar was just 5 gram minis. Though I didn't use all of them. I did save a couple, just because some of them were like very similar and maybe just a little darker or a slightly different base, but very much the same colors used in it. So I did save some of those to use later in the blanket. But yeah, there are the ones that came from 20 grams. I should still have enough to do another 3 squares. The ones that came from 10 grams, I should be able to do another 1 square. So as I'm using balls, I'm setting them aside and using new ones. And I think it might actually be time to start getting some of those out and working them in again. Or at least the colors that Christina kind of likes the best, because there's a couple in there. She likes the rainbowy ones. She likes this one a lot. She'll probably like this one a lot. I don't think she's seen that one yet. That one's a new one. She likes this kind of purpley pinky one. She likes this one a lot. So some of these more rainbowy ones. This one and this one. So I will try to work some more of those ones back in again if I have more of them for her blanket. So that's kind of it for the knitting. Probably about half hour. The sun did go down and my kids will be coming home. They're at the neighbor's house right now. This is why I have time to do this. So really quick, I'll try to catch up a bit on what's going on with my family. So new year, new us, not even a little bit new us. New year, same old us. The big news, Catherine turned 3. That was last Saturday. And I don't have a video of us singing happy birthday and blowing out the candles because Chris was like, I'll take the video. And then his phone at the end gave him a thing saying, oh, we couldn't save it because of low battery. Or they couldn't record it. It was because his battery wasn't high enough. It didn't do it. But it didn't tell him that in time for us to, you know, like, oh, wait, we'll, you know, use a different phone or anything. So we don't really have any video recording of that. But I have pictures of her eating her beautiful cake, which Aunt Chrissy made for her. Catherine wanted a blue cake, like Chrissy had at the tea party she invited us to. So Chrissy said she'd be delighted to make another cake for us, and it was beautiful. Although Chris did confuse Catherine because it came in like it's a mixing bowl but upside down to be a cake tin. And so Chris had told Catherine that that was so that he could get his hair cut. You know, put a bowl on and then cut the hair, which is not even remotely close to his side. But he told her that was so Daddy could have his hair cut after dinner. And she's like, oh, okay, because, you know, she just turned 3 that day. So then you're like, oh, actually Daddy was kidding. It has a cake in it. This is your birthday cake. And then like afterwards she goes, okay, but when are we going to cut Daddy's hair? So she was a bit confused by that. She didn't quite get the distraction technique. But since she is 3, we can now send her to the nursery. And her paid place, because her birthday was after the start of term, her paid place doesn't start until after Easter break. But we can pay for her to go, and it's only £4.40 an hour, which is half what you pay for private nursery. And she's bored at home. She is. We've been doing like Play-Doh and blocks and puzzles and all sorts of different things, but she's ready for more. More interaction with other kids, things that are harder to set up for just one child. She's ready for more. So she had her 2 induction days, and then Thursday was her first full 3-hour session of her paid place. And the first 2 days she was kind of shy and kind of like, oh, I don't really know what's going on. And like when I picked her up, the first one I was there with her, and then the second one she was there by herself for the hour. And when I picked her up after the second one, she kind of came over and whispered, you know, like, what did you do? And she came over and was like whispering to me. She said they played. Like, oh, good. I'm glad you played. And then it was only like when I dropped her off on Thursday for her full session, she was kind of like, don't really know, and still really shy and kind of like, oh, kind of pulled in on herself. And with Christina, we used to say if she wasn't crying, she was happy. Like you wouldn't often get the big, sunny, happy smiles when she was a baby. As she got older, you do more, but as a baby, you didn't get the big, happy, sunny smiles. But if she wasn't crying, she was fine. She was content. With Catherine, it was kind of the opposite. If she wasn't smiling, then she was really upset. You didn't necessarily get the full crying, but like her default is so sunny and so happy that kind of like means there's a lot of nervous energy going on there. But when I came back to pick her up, it was time to pick up both her and her sister, and they were playing out in the garden. She was in the nursery's mud kitchen. I was like, oh, do you want me to, like, I can get you first, or I can go get Christina and come back and get you. Would that be okay? And she was like, kind of grunted an answer at me, and I didn't know really what it was, but I took it to be a yes, because I figured if it was a no, she'd be trying to climb over the fence to get to me or something. And she was basically just like, oh, hey, Mom, whatever. So she was fine. And when I picked her up, she was really happy, and she was telling me about all the stuff, and, she'd had a good time. And today we walked by the nursery, and she wanted to go back. So she was like, when can I go back? When's my next nursery time? So that's a really good sign. And I told my husband Sorry about that. My husband came through, and as you can see, it's just gotten that much darker because the sun set almost half an hour ago. But since my last video, I think the sky has gotten noticeably darker. So yeah, Catherine is enjoying nursery. Today she had her first gymnastics session as a 3 to 5 year old, and that went really well. 3 to 5 year olds do not have a guardian with them. They just go in with the teacher and the teacher's aide, and she was a little slow going in. It wasn't entirely, you know, like just a little cautious, but she came out all big happy smiles and gave me a big cuddle and said it was, you know, like, what did you do? And I asked them yes, no questions, and apparently she was on the balance beam today is what the apparatus they were using. So it went well. She does know a couple of kids in that class as well from when they were in the toddler gymnastics with her, and she'd been asking to go back to gymnastics basically every time we left the house lately. Gymnastics, we go gymnastics. So she's really happy to be back in that class, which is always good. You want to know that your kids are actually enjoying the activities you sign them up for. Unlike, I guess, Christina likes things until she doesn't like them, and then they're pretty much dead to her, which I was talking about this with my husband, and he says that he was basically the same way. Like, he'd like something and he'd like something, and then he'd just be like, you know what, I don't like it anymore. But she was that way with telly programs when she was little. Like, she liked Peppa Pig, and then Peppa Pig was dead to her. And she liked Postman Pat. Right around the time we moved into this house, she went through a huge Postman Pat thing where, like, all she wanted to do all day was have Postman Pat on. And she didn't always, you know, she was sorry, now I'm going to cough. Excuse me. She was 2. But for like 2 weeks, all she wanted to do was have Postman Pat on and listening to it while she was playing her games and this and that and the other thing. And then she was just like, no, I don't like Postman Pat anymore. Meanwhile, I had the theme song stuck in my head for another month. Like, all I did all day was hum the Postman Pat theme song, because I'm very musically impressionable. But she tends to like things, and then they're just dead to her. So I suppose it's not surprising that she's the same way with activities. Lately, she has been making up stories. She's been writing books and illustrating them and doing stories, and she's always kind of done that a little bit, but she's really gone into high gear with that. That's very much what she does right now with her free time. She's also started recording YouTube videos, not based on me, based on the ones she watches, but they're all really cute too, and like, she's holding her camera so the whole thing wibbles and wobbles, and she sings and tells stories, and she tells people to like and subscribe, which, if you would like to like and subscribe, would be brilliant for me, if only because I'd be the happiest bunny in the world, frankly, if I look and I'm like, yay. I did actually have some new subscribers, and YouTube did absolutely nothing to tell me about them, so hi, hello new subscribers. I did kind of out myself to the Arnall-Culliford Ravelry group as having a podcast. So if you're watching, hi, and if you're not watching, then I will never know and you will never know, and we'll all just go on with our lives. Yeah, but if you like, and I ever notice, if YouTube ever tells me about it, I will be the happiest bunny in all of Happy Bunnydom. Yeah, so that's kind of it. Next week, hopefully I will be back to talk to you more. Today's the 17th, so I do have a little time before the next Boost Your Knitting project, which is finishing techniques for toys, and the project is a little bunny rabbit. And that's it. That's a whole year of Boost Your Knitting. I didn't do all the projects. I at least did all the techniques, but I don't necessarily have anything to show for them. But that's a whole... The last project's coming up. Sorry, I just had some little hiccups again. Wow. Anyway, hopefully my life is calming down now. Hopefully, touch wood, these colds are winding their way out of my system, and I will be able to talk to you more regularly, and the sun's coming back, and no one's complained about the twinkly lights, so I've still got them. If you complain, I will stop the twinkly lights. That is an optional thing. We just tend to default them to twinkly because when it gets dark, it looks really pretty. That they don't have to be on twinkly when I'm doing my podcast. So if anyone does have a problem, you probably didn't make it this far. But if you did and you were just like, oh, they were kind of annoying, let me know. I accept feedback. I accept feedback on everything. It won't necessarily change what I'm doing, but I accept feedback and comments, and yeah. I'm clearly getting a little loopy, and my children will be coming home very shortly. So I will say goodbye, and hopefully we'll do this again next week. Okay, bye.